Hello again, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Never Seen It. This is a podcast about movies that we haven't seen yet, and I am your host today. My name is Betsy. With me, as always, is my co-host Trent.
Hello, Betsy.
Today, we are continuing our journey through Netflix exclusive content. We decided that there's all these movies on Netflix that we just haven't explored, apart from the ones that tend to get nominated for Oscars. So what else is there? What else lives on this platform? We're working through a few of them this month. And this one is kind of the one that inspired us doing this series. It was just a recommended, you might also like kind of movie on something else we were looking at. It is called The Half of It. This movie came out in 2020, and we were intrigued.
Yeah, I think I was the one who was kind of scrolling through Netflix, and I just let the trailer play, and it looked really, really interesting. And I'm hoping that this is not going to disappoint me because I've kind of built it up in my mind.
So Trent, why don't you tell our listeners what this movie is, why it intrigued you, and why we're going to watch it today?
So my understanding here from the trailer is that this is a kind of a modern day young adult Cyrano de Bergerac story, where there is a girl, I think this is all a high school story. So there's a girl in high school who is like a nerdy girl, doesn't necessarily have a lot of friends. She also takes money for like doing other kids' homework or assignments or whatever else. There's a guy who approaches her to ask her to write a letter to this other girl that he has a crush on. But throughout this whole thing, I think the main girl has a crush on this other girl, or maybe develops a crush because of the interactions that she has.
So are you familiar with the story of Cyrano?
So Cyrano is like an ugly guy who helps another guy who try to woo another woman, but the woman is actually falling in love with Cyrano's prose, Cyrano's letters.
Right, so that's the gist of it. Is there's a guy in the middle who loves...
kind of a dumb guy in the middle who has like a crush on a girl, but he's kind of a dumbass.
He is not eloquent, and he needs help wooing this girl. So he gets Cyrano to help him with that. But in reality, she is falling in love with Cyrano, basically.
Cyrano's words, at the very least.
And Cyrano loves her as well. And they've adapted this many different times in many different ways. Sometimes it's Roxanne in the 80s, where it's Steve Martin and he's got a gigantic nose.
Right.
Sometimes it's Cyrano, the musical that came out a couple of years ago starring Peter Dinklage.
Right.
And in this case, it's a high school girl. And this is actually... I don't know if she already knows she's gay or it just kind of happens that she falls in love with this other girl.
Yeah, who knows?
But that's kind of the gist of it, is we're getting a queer gender role reversal version of this story.
And it seems really sweet. You know, I want a story like this to really live on in this modern world because, you know, high school was like 20 years ago for us. I don't really know what kids these days are up to as far as like how they're getting together. And this story is very much an old-fashioned way of doing things because how this guy doesn't try to get a hold of her like Snapchat or however the hell kids get together these days. Why is he choosing to go the route of a letter? Why isn't he going this other way? And maybe this isn't even in like very modern times. Do they have cell phones? I have no idea.
Yeah, it might not be letters. It could be that he's behind a wall or she's behind a wall whispering to him,
right.
Or they're texting or instant messaging. There's a number
or
of
an
ways.
old-fashioned email.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how they modernize this story, because I don't think, apart from Roxanne, I've ever seen a modern version. And that movie came out 40 years ago.
Right.
So it hasn't been done in a while, to the best of my knowledge, at least in a present day tense. But I don't think you and I really know too much more about this. We were just interested in the trailer. So let's go do it. We're going to go watch The Half of It, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Trent, what did you think of the half of it?
That's about what I wanted it to be. Because based on what we saw in the trailer, I figured that this is where everything was going to go. I also kind of figured that there wasn't going to be like, okay, these people are going to end up together or anything like that. This is a high school story. It's not like they're going to fall in love and then be happily ever after. It's not that kind of a movie.
Well, they even start the movie by saying, this isn't a love story, or at least not the kind of
Right.
thing you think it is.
Yeah, the voiceover basically tells you at the beginning of the movie, hey, this is not what you think it is. This isn't going to end up in, I'm in my lover's arms or anything like that.
Yeah, it's not going to end happily for everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, the original Cyrano story is much more devastating than this one is, if the movie version that I most recently watched is to be believed. But I agree. I think it is as advertised. It's very sweet.
It's a very sweet story.
It's very nice. The whole time, though, I was like, this movie's making me sad. It's just sad. This poor girl, she doesn't really have any friends, and she's pining for somebody that she can't have, and she doesn't know how to express who she actually is. And I'm just like, it's gonna end badly. This isn't gonna end well. I'm gonna be sad. It's just, how sad am I going to be? And for the most part, I think I liked this one. The first chunk of the movie, the first at least half, is pretty solid. But then there's somewhere in the middle where the movie loses a little bit of steam, I felt like. And it started to be like, these character turns that come out of nowhere and just a lot of quick cut scenes that didn't really have a lot of explanation. I wish they had developed the characters a little bit more.
Like who?
So Paul in particular, like, he has been hanging out with Ellie this whole movie, and she effectively in one scene, without saying it, kind of lets on that she feels about Aster a different way than she has stated. And he's picking up on this.
He did, yeah.
He's kind of a big dumb jock, but also he's not stupid. He's not oblivious when she is describing the things that she likes about Aster. He's kind of picking up on it. But later in the movie, he tries to kiss her, kind of inexplicably. I didn't understand why he decided to do that. And then when Aster sees them and he sees Ellie's reaction, realizes that she is in fact in love with Aster, his response is, that's a sin, you're going to hell. And up to this point, we've not really focused on a deep Christianity or traditional family values or anything with this character, because we had already had one scene earlier in the movie where he seemed to already be picking up on this. It just seemed really dramatic all of a sudden. And then again, there's all these little things like Trig shows up and says, oh, Ellie, you're in love with me. And then, I don't know, Aster just kind of accepting a proposal from this guy who is like truly stupid. And there's just these moments where I don't know why we're doing this right now. It felt underdeveloped.
Yeah, I do get that. I don't think that it's... I'm not trying to read that much into it. It didn't bother me that, okay, Trig is I think, the comic relief of this movie, because, yeah, he is the stereotypical, like, rich jock that every girl wants to be with, and everybody is jealous of Aster because she's with him. But there's really no reason why those two are together at all.
In the first part of the movie, it made sense. Like, him as a character and everybody around Aster, it made sense. I followed, it's all these blonde girls with pink shirts and denim jackets. They were dressed literally identically.
Right.
And then you've got this big brown-eyed brunette who looks rather lost in her own circle. And yes, she's the pretty popular girl, but she doesn't feel like the pretty popular girl.
Right.
So the first part of it, she's dating Trig. She doesn't really seem to like him, but it's what you do. And he wants to date her, so she's just kind of going along with it because her whole thing is she isn't sure of herself. Fine. But in the latter part of the movie, she is getting more of a sense of what she really wants and who she wants to be with. She never breaks up with Trig. Even though she's kind of starting to date Paul, even when they cross from I want to be friends to I want to be more than friends, she never breaks up with that dumbass.
I did get that thought as well. And you know, this is also kind of couched in the fact that this is a very small town. You know, Squamish, Washington is apparently a real town. It's got like a population of like 4,000 people, so you can relate to something like that. And because it is a very small town, everybody kind of knows everybody's business. Also, everybody goes to church at the same church. So I think them bringing out the religious aspects is just kind of a given, even though they don't actually have any of that early on in the movie. They do bring up the fact that Ellie and her dad don't really believe in anything because they're not from here. They're not, you know, steeped in the traditional American Christian values that everybody just has to have if you're in a small town. You're not allowed to be different in a small town like that. But Ellie and her dad are. But yes, I do agree. The movie should have addressed the religious thing a little bit earlier because it seems like it is a big linchpin to a lot of different stuff. Because yeah, Paul does bring up he immediately goes to, oh, what you are is a sin and you're going to go to hell because that's what he's brought up to believe.
But they only have sprinkled this in throughout the movie. They haven't really made it
You're right.
an important element.
To anybody.
To anybody in particular.
Yeah.
Even though it seems like Aster's maybe a pastor's kid.
She is.
But again, they don't explore that very much. Like, there's a big chunk of this movie Aster's not in.
Yeah, she just kind of goes to California for some reason.
For reasons, Trent. For reasons.
Right.
And when we get to the end of the movie, it's like her path forward is to get married at a young age because she doesn't know what else to do. Obviously, it presents a predicament when you are the child of a pastor in a traditional Christian faith,
right.
And this girl is effectively professing her love in front of a room full of people, and you've never really considered anything other than, I'm going to marry the straight white man.
Yeah, and I think, me being me, I am actually extrapolating a lot more than what they're giving me in the movie. If we're going to critique the movie on its face, then yeah, there is a real lack of tying things together and making sure that the big points that happen later on in the movie are brought up earlier on. Like, the only thing that they really establish early on is the fact that there is going to be a senior class talent show that everybody's required to go to. That happens, but nothing else gets set up in the beginning. Nothing else really gets paid off.
No events, no important things that we have to build to.
Yeah. It is clearly a senior class. It is clearly the end of the year because they have an Easter service, so I know it's the end of the year. So I get that point, but the rest of it, I myself am extrapolating. Like, the stuff with Aster, I think Aster is a really, really interesting character because I'm kind of putting a little bit extra on top of her because it isn't all there. It isn't explained.
She could easily have been a vapid high schooler that this boy is in love with for some inexplicable reason, but she actually is. She is pretty, but she also says, this is going to sound terrible when people think you're pretty. Like, she knows how vain it sounds, but she's like projecting what other people are saying. Like, she doesn't really consider herself like the pretty girl. She just happens to have some looks. But
right. But that's not her thing, though. Her thing is, I honestly believe that she doesn't want to be just the pretty girl because she kind of disdains a lot of the other girls who are the pretty girls.
Yes, and she's into like existentialism and philosophy and old movies.
She's deep.
She is deeper than the girls around her.
Right.
So I understand why these two make a connection, why she and Ellie, even though she doesn't know Ellie is the one she's talking to, why they have things in common. Because they are more mature than the people around them.
And that could be, it's less about a personal connection. It is more about, hey, you're into the same kinds of things that I am. and you can appreciate the outside nature of our own minds. I'm not just in Squamish. I am beyond this podunk town.
I'm exploring what exists outside of this little area of the world.
And you're the only other person that I have met that can actually do this. The only thing that's lacking here is the in-person connection. When she goes out on the dates with Paul, they can't talk about the serious things that they've been texting back and forth about.
Because Paul doesn't have a clue.
Because Paul doesn't have a clue. He's like a deer in headlights, you know? So that's why I think I have to put more onto this character than what they're allowing me to have. The same thing with Ellie. At no time does Ellie say explicitly, I like girls. Or I only like girls, or something like that.
Well, she even says, like, how do you know, like, when you like somebody or when they want to be kissed? Like, she's just sort of clueless. She lives in her own little world. She is trying to get to adulthood, and I don't think she wants to rock any boats or even be noticed by anybody.
Right.
Because she's like, oh, my dad needs me, and I'm just going to stay here forever.
Yeah, and we get the story from her dad about the fact that she was 13 when her mom died, and she's basically just been on this track, no pun intended, for 4 or 5 years up until she's graduating high school, and she's just going to go off and do whatever she's going to do in Grinnell.
Except she's not gonna go to Grinnell until she finally makes up her mind to do it. Because I will say this, the two characters, the two women, have a positive impact on each other. Because those two getting to know each other the way they do inspires Ellie to actually leave this town. And it inspires Aster to not just settle. Like the whole thing about painting, and they both talk about art and taking what you have and making it a good piece of art and then turning it into a great piece of art. But it requires bold strokes. Like you have to just try it. You have to go for it. And if you don't go for it, you're never gonna know. And the two of them, by the end of the movie, they go for it. And so there are some really nice moments, and some of their conversations are very sweet and interesting. I'm in the middle. Like, there were just enough moments that I was like, I don't understand this, or why is everyone mumbling through the scene? We couldn't take one more take to enunciate. It was stupid things like that were bothering me about the movie, not the overall movie itself. It was just, Paul sometimes talked so fast and muttered through his lines that I barely understood what he said. You had to back up and rewatch the final scene with the two girls because you didn't follow what was going on.
I didn't get what was happening because it was just kind of a quick change from them kind of making up a little bit, but then Aster is like weirdly flirting back to her, and it's like there was some missing stuff that happened in between the last time they were together. And clearly there was. Because there is a time jump here that we don't get to see.
We basically skipped the summer and now it's the fall and we're going to school.
Right. So clearly they have addressed the issue, but not all the way. Where, like, they're kind of on speaking terms and Aster's basically saying, hey, yeah, have a good life. She is being kind of dismissive there until Ellie says, hey, let's just talk about this now. I never meant to hurt you. This was only supposed to be one thing. I'm sorry. And in my mind, Ellie is just kind of admitting here that, hey, I just don't know what I want. I don't know what I am, but I had this feeling about you. This is the way that I had in order to communicate whatever feelings that I had, but I had to do it through Paul. And I think Aster, in the end, understands that. She has this conversation kind of with herself about, if I was a different person, meaning if I was actually into girls, maybe this would have been different. Maybe I actually am, and I don't know it yet. I just need to go off to college and find out.
The short version is she doesn't know what she is and what she wants.
Neither of them do.
Neither of them do. They're too young, and they haven't had time to even think about it, basically.
Yeah. So everybody's just a ball of emotions here and hormones, and it's all just kind of coming out in the end, which, hey, that's high school.
Yeah, it's definitely a coming-of-age movie, and it's the kind of thing where you expect all of these characters are going to learn some lessons, but they may not ultimately be happy, but they're changed for the better. Because even Paul, the big dumb jock, is starting to figure something out. Like, we don't get a great resolution about him at the end. Like,
No.
he and Ellie are still friends. Like, they work out their issues or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's gonna make sausage, I guess.
Sausage tacos.
Sausage tacos. He's trying to get along. And, you know, Ellie helps him too. Like, she is definitely friends with him and on his behalf is writing all these newspapers trying to get someone to pay attention to this kid.
Yeah.
To help him make his dreams come true.
And I agree with you that they should have gone more into his background too, because he's still a main character here. We barely get anything of his, home life. We get one scene of him taking Ellie to dinner at his place.
Trying to take her.
And there's like 10 different people yelling and screaming at the kitchen table. And he says, actually, no, let's go to your place. But you can, again, I'm having to extrapolate a lot of the different things that are not filled in here. He comes from a big family, probably very religious, but by, the scene of them in the church, maybe the mother is actually a little bit more tolerant than what you might think, because she found the thing about him Googling, how do you know if you're gay or not? And she says, even if you are gay, we're going to love you no matter what.
But that's what I'm saying. It's so fast. He has this scene with her where all of a sudden he decides he's going to kiss her. I don't know where that came from, because it's like out of left field.
I want to talk about that, but go ahead.
And then he goes home because he says, oh, well, you like girls, that's a sin. And he Googles, how do you know if you're gay? And leaves it on the computer and his mom sees it. This whole sequence is like 30 seconds. It's so fast until we get to the scene in the church and his mom's like, even if you are gay, we'll love you no matter what. Why was any of that in there? It didn't need to be. If it's gonna be, then you need to give me more foundation for that to make any sense.
Yeah, and honestly, I kind of brought this up while we were watching it. This kind of goes into what we're covering in Real Love, our Patreon show, where this is kind of a romantic comedy in a way, where there is going to be a misunderstanding.
Correct.
The misunderstanding is them next to the pop machine, her having all these drinks in her hand, and he just lays one on her. I believe the point of that entire thing was, hey, not only did Aster come and see me, but Ellie did too. Ellie has zero interest in football or anything like that, but these two have a connection. They absolutely do, and I can relate to this whole situation because I had basically nothing but female friends in high school.
Just misreading the situation.
Right. And really, Paul doesn't have a lot of friends either. He has, teammates. He doesn't hang around with any of those other guys. He doesn't hang around with anybody else but Ellie.
And he's not even that good an athlete at the beginning of the movie.
Nobody is.
He's always at the end of the pack when they're running laps.
Yeah.
And it's not until he literally is chasing Ellie up a hill every single day, she is inadvertently training him to be a better football player. By accident. And he is the only person on that team the entire season, I'm assuming, that has scored any points. And he's a fucking hero for scoring one touchdown. They made a banner of his big dumb face and it says he got us on the board. So everybody has a positive effect on everybody. I just feel like in the middle about this, because there were things I really liked, there were things that bothered me about this movie. So to go back to a thing I liked about this, when they have the scene, not date number 1, but date number 2, when Paul and Aster are actually having their date. And Paul is screwing this up because he does not know how to open his mouth and say anything coherent to her. Ellie is in the car watching them, texting both Aster as Paul and Paul as Ellie. And it's just these quick cut shots from her perspective, and he's just staring at her through the window, what are you doing?
Right,
and
stop doing this and tell me what you're doing.
Scream texting, look at your phone! Because she's gonna know you're not texting her.
Right.
So that whole sequence was really funny.
And really, that is the Cyrano thing.
Yes.
Because in the regular Cyrano story, the way I understand it, is that Cyrano is the one actually saying all these words, or at least he's feeding the lines to the dude.
He's doing all the work, yeah.
Yeah, he's doing all of the work, and the dude is just getting the spoils of it.
Oh yeah, the dude gets the girl, and it
Yeah.
is completely unearned.
Right.
Because I don't care how sweet you are, dude. Like, you don't even know why you love her.
You can't even say the word existentialism.
No, you can't even say it. And it's frustrating. And, you know, when you're romantic, you want to see the person who's really in love get the girl. And like I said, the original story is infinitely more devastating than this movie is.
I can get that.
But there's a couple of scenes like that throughout this movie where, like, she is actually watching them and helping him, texting the messages, or the two of them are following her around and learning everything there is to know about her.
Yeah, and I would have rather had, and not that I really need to see more like negativity here, but I kind of wanted to get more of Ellie struggling with it, or her like having a fight with Paul. But I think that storyline really only works if you are a more mature person than these people are.
I feel like Ellie has resigned herself to the fact that this is how life is, and she doesn't really concern herself with the goings-on of other people.
Yeah.
Like, she's literally writing all these papers because she knows that she is smarter than everybody in the class. Even the teacher knows she's doing
Right.
it. She's like, wow, you got me 6 different takes on this one story.
Right.
And she never rats her out because she's like, you're really good at this, and I'd have to
She's
fail
gonna-
my whole class.
Yeah, she's gonna go off and do great things.
Yeah.
And everybody in my class is gonna pass. And guess what? I'm a member of the teachers union, so I get a bonus because everybody does a good job.
And also, it's much more bearable than having to read the crap they'd actually write.
She says that.
When
really want me to read their takes on this? No, I'd rather read yours.
when Ellie shifts gears and stops writing papers and starts writing letters, and she actually has to suffer through it, she's
Yep.
like, "Is this why half of my students are failing?"
Right.
So that was pretty funny. But yeah, so she's writing all these papers, and then she's also like riding her bike home, and these 3 idiots drive by her every single day, and they make fun of her last name,
Yeah.
and they go choo 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 like a little train because her last name is Chu.
Sure.
Because they're dumb Americans, and she's a Chinese girl, so clearly we have to go out of her way to make her life difficult. But
And she also works at the train station. and
she
yeah.
also does not care. Like,
Yeah.
she just keeps riding her bike. They go so far as to sabotage the piano so they will embarrass her, so she'll embarrass herself when they have this talent show. And even then, you know, she has a rescuer, but up until that point, she starts playing and isn't bothered by it the first time. It's not until the second time that she's like, I'm not getting through this because this piano sucks.
Yeah. Do you think there's an aspect of the adage, never let them see you cry? Yeah, like your tormentors, do not give them the satisfaction of crying in front of them. So she's putting her back to the crowd so that if she does screw up or they are making fun of her, she doesn't show her tears.
I don't get that from this character, though. I think she is so put together about herself most of the time.
And she also does say that, oh, I never perform on a stage. Yeah, I'm okay with doing it in the church because I'm off to the side.
Yeah, so it's not like she is a complete stranger to performing. It's
Yeah.
just performing in front of people is a little different. But even when it goes badly, it's not like she runs off the stage in tears. She just kind of
Yeah.
goes, huh.
So
And
this is happening.
yeah, and I don't know what she would have done had Paul not rescued her. I don't know if she knows what she would have done. It doesn't seem like her lot in life bothers her that much. I think she is just
Yeah.
more mature, and she knows she's more mature. So she just kind of deals with it.
And I was kind of impressed. You mentioned her, riding her bike and the dumbasses are driving past her. What I figured was happening there was that she just had headphones in because, this happens to her all the time and she just wants to be able to just drown it out. And the reason why when Paul comes up behind her and like yanks her bike, that she literally just didn't hear him.
No, I think she's just spent her lifetime ignoring people on that road who yell at her.
And she's like actively trying to ignore everything around her. So she's also ignoring Paul.
Sometimes that's also how some people just get through high school. They just keep their head down.
That was me.
They stay quiet. If people are making fun of them, they just ignore it.
Yeah.
Some people don't take it so personally because they're more mature than the people who are making fun of them, which she clearly is.
She clearly is. I definitely wasn't. I took everything personally, and yeah.
But you were also an old man, so you had maturity. You just also cared what other people thought. She doesn't seem to care what anyone but Aster thinks.
And I think, speaking of that, I think the movie is trying to portray, or at least the advertisement, tried to portray the fact that she was falling in love with Aster throughout the process. But I fully believe that she had already noticed Aster well before this and knew what Aster was all about, because in that music scene, when everybody gets up to sing, everything is focused on her. Ellie looks at her when she gets up and listens to her sing, and she is just this object that everybody is attracted to.
Yeah, she definitely was aware of Aster and thought about her in some capacity, because when somebody runs into Ellie in the hall and she drops her stuff, Aster helps pick it up, and she makes a fool of herself. She goes, "I'm Ellie Chu." And then she's like, "What the fuck did I say that for?" So this is something that has crossed her mind, to talk to this person, to get to know this person. And when she turns around and Paul is there, she goes, "Fine, I'll do it for $50.
Well, and she's also in the middle of, negotiating this light bill thing where, hey, you're behind by 3 months and I need $50 just to keep the lights on.
So let me ask you this. I was trying to figure out what the deal is with her dad, because the whole movie, he's just lounging around in his pajamas. Now, I understand, his job is not what he wanted it to be. He's never advanced past that because he doesn't speak very good English. He can speak it, but he primarily at home speaks Chinese. But they never express that there's anything wrong with him. He's not an alcoholic. He has not had some kind of accident preventing him from working. But it seems like she has just taken over his job and he just exists and she does the work for him.
Is it that it's been not that much time since her mother died?
It's been 4 or 5 years, so long enough that he shouldn't be lounging around in his pajamas all day.
You're right.
And making his teenage daughter do his job.
Yeah, and there's not really an indication that he's just depressed about things or he's depressed about his lot in life, much like she isn't. I honestly do not know.
Again, something they didn't really explore enough. I understand this happens a lot where a spouse dies, a parent dies, and the other parent becomes kind of inconsolable, and the child is immediately thrust into the position of taking care of the remaining parent.
Right.
So that's basically what happened. He was in this black hole of grief, and she just sort of stepped up one day, and he sort of let her do it. But they don't go beyond that. I've seen that story before, but there's usually more circumstantial evidence to support why it's still happening or how we got to here.
Yeah, the only other thing that really comes up is that, he's watching a lot of American television and movies and things like that, where she says, "You're trying to learn English. Why are you watching this other movie that isn't in English when you're supposed to be trying to learn English?" So maybe that's part of it. Maybe he's really, maybe he's using this time to try to not perfect his English, but get better at it so that he can get to whatever job that he wants.
Or she's trying to give him the time to do it and he's squandering it.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. That would make sense. But again, it's not very clear. All right, well, I know there's a couple more things we need to cover here. The main one I wanted to bring up was the fact at the beginning of the movie, they introduced the fact they are having a talent show and all seniors are required to sign up. That sounds like a nightmare for some high schoolers.
Yeah.
I feel like if you were going to this high school, that would be a nightmare for you.
Yeah.
What the hell would you do, Trent?
If I was in high school, if I was a senior in high school, I don't have a clue
if you
what
were
I would do.
Required.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she just happens to be able to play the piano And she is apparently also a songwriter. She plays the guitar.
Yeah.
Another fact that's barely touched upon. And she doesn't even finish this song. It's like one verse and a chorus.
Sure.
But
she does it well.
But everybody is like, she's amazing and she's our new best friend.
Yeah.
When did Ellie Chu get kind of hot?
Right.
And then they invite her to this party, and it's all of these things like if you just participate a little, people will actually maybe be your friend and pay attention to you and try to get to know you.
Otherwise, you're just kind of the weirdo, and that's kind of what I was going through when I was in high school. I didn't participate in anything. I wasn't part of any kind of clubs or teams or anything, really. I just worked. I had a part-time job after school. I just kind of hung out with some friends that I had met through work, and that's about it. A lot of my friends didn't even go to my school.
You also had like 400 classmates.
Yeah, I went to a much larger school.
Versus what this town is, where they clearly are going to a pretty small school.
So that's part of it too. Like, everybody knows her name, but they don't really know anything about her. It's just through, the grapevine. Everybody knows that, yeah, maybe her mom died and she lives with her dad and they live near the train station and that's kind of what she does. But she doesn't do anything else. It's kind of like what I'm doing with this movie. I'm extrapolating a lot of things that are not explained.
But that's what I mean. When I'm watching a movie, I don't want to have to extrapolate. I just want you to tell me. Like, I shouldn't have to fill in all these gaps on my own.
And most of the time, I'm right there with you, where I need you to explain why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. I need you to explain why this character is doing what they're doing. But in this case, I think I'm just the opposite. I kind of like that they keep some of these characters a little bit open-ended. But really, I think me coming into this movie, really being interested in it, it's possible that my own mind is taking over and I'm forcing myself to like it, so I have to make it a better movie in my mind, I don't know if you do that at all, but I don't know. This is a strange one for me.
Well, are there any other elements that you want to bring up before we start wrapping this up?
Oh, Betsy, the flowery language and the deep nature of the conversations is kind of the stuff that I wish I was better at articulating some of the things that I feel, much like these characters do. Like, I wish I was like Ellie, where I could just study all of these, like, philosophers and existentialists and all this other shit that I was into when I was her age, but that falls away, As I get older, I just kind of can't be bothered to go into that stuff anymore. If I had all the time in the world, absolutely would I do that. But I have to have a job. I have to make money.
We need to retire, but we're far too young for that nonsense.
Right. But I appreciate the fact that they're allowing this kid to be as smart as she is and still be not super weird, because she's not weird. She's just mature.
And introverted.
Yeah. But there's one line here when they're going back and forth in the letters where there's a line that it just floored me. I loved it so much. In, I think, one of the second or third letter that gets sent to Aster, there's a line that Ellie had taken from a movie that they were watching. Aster recognized it and called her out on it, saying, "Ha, you got that from a thing. Try better," or something like that. In a response, Ellie said, "Okay, yeah, you got me. But really, I still don't know anything about love. How could I express my love if I don't know anything about it?" And the line is, "If I knew what love was, I would quote myself." And that being, a very poetic way to say, I cannot express my love for you in any other words but another person's, because I do not know of love.
The irony being, this is coming from Paul.
Right.
But Paul's not actually writing it. Someone else is writing his words, which are actually someone else's words.
Right.
So it's very layered.
But yeah, that line really got to me. Another part that just kind of tickled me was the part where Trig is in this fucking truck and they're stuck in the mud and there's all the blonde bimbos around him just cheering him on. Aster is just kind of sitting, not even looking at what's happening. And this whole scene reinforces she just doesn't belong in this group.
No, he's like, did you get it, babe? Babe!
Yeah.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it.
You gotta put a tag on there. Hashtag whatever.
Mud life or whatever.
Mud
the
life.
fuck. And really, like, watching those kinds of scenes, it just makes me feel that much worse for Aster, because she has this mind, she has this love of art and poetry and things like that is just wasted in a town like this, and being with a guy like this and having these people around her like that.
Unfortunately, some people live their lives like that. They think small, they settle, and they just kind of exist, and that's the end of it.
Just stifled, and it makes me sad.
Yeah.
And that's maybe what you were feeling. Like, that is the negative feeling that I'm feeling about this movie. I feel sad for these characters who actually do have potential in whether or not it is, you know, in a career or love or anything like that. It's unfulfilling what they're going through here. And they have to leave this town in order to get it.
But they have to be willing to leave the town to do it.
Yes. Last thing is the very, very first part of the movie where there's this paper animation thing happening where they don't use that any other time in the movie. I thought this whole motif was going to like follow the characters or maybe have like interstitials with this kind of paper animation, but no, it is just this voiceover of them talking about where there's this like fable of at one time humans had, you know, 4 arms and 4 legs, and we had 2 different personalities coming out of us at the same time, and at one point we were separated and we were tasked to find each other.
Yeah, the Greeks believed that we were all combined humans, basically. 2 bodies merged into one, and we angered the gods, and we were separated and forced to wander the earth for the rest of eternity looking for our soulmate, for our other half.
Right.
Hence the half of it.
Yeah,
that's
the
part
half of it.
That's part of the definition of that.
Yeah. And I don't really like the title of this. I think it's a little unearned with just having this intro to the whole movie.
Well, there's that, but there's also just the phrase, you don't know the half of it.
Yeah.
That's literally where it comes from. It's just the kind of sloppy title they put on a movie meant for teens.
Yeah, I guess.
But it's not really a movie meant for teens. I don't know who this movie's exactly meant for.
I don't know either. But I will say I think I enjoyed it more than you did.
And don't get me wrong, it's not like I didn't like it. I just felt like there were enough gaps that I was left unsatisfied by it. And it just overall made me feel sad. And if I had left the movie feeling happy, maybe I would have a different opinion. But I was like, no, I'm just sad. I'm sad for these people. I'm sad for this girl. I want them to all be happy. And I don't know if they're going to get to be happy. And they told me at the beginning that's how it was going to be. And I'm like, maybe they were wrong. But that's okay. At the end of the movie, she finally smiled. Literally, Ellie does not smile this whole movie. She's so sad.
And it's not until she just plants one on Aster that she drives away happy.
And she finally leaves this town. She doesn't smile until she's on the train, like getting the hell out of this damn town.
With tears in her eyes,
With
really.
tears in her eyes. And so, yeah, there's just elements of it I liked, elements of it I didn't like. We'll see if I ever revisit it.
And I mean, we haven't really talked about the fact that, you know, Netflix movies, they're very hit and miss. Now, this movie is exclusive to Netflix. The last movie we covered was also exclusive to Netflix. And the next one we're covering is also made for and exclusive to Netflix.
For the time being, they're now cutting their own exclusive shit, but that's a whole different ball of wax.
That's a different topic. But I do not understand the pipeline of Netflix. Like, are these movies just made out there with some kind of funding and then Netflix picks it up after the fact? Do they fund it themselves because they want to put it under their own umbrella? Like, how are these movies even funded? How do they get into the thing? And I just do not understand.
The answer is yes. It depends.
It's everything.
It depends what it is. Sometimes they go to festivals and they buy stuff and it becomes property of Netflix and they throw it up on the platform and that's the only place it'll ever go.
Right.
And other times they actually say, Martin Scorsese, here's a very, very large check. Please make us a movie.
Or in a lot of cases, they are getting like huge deals. Like Adam Sandler has a huge contract. Rian Johnson has a huge contract.
Yeah, they're working through these different people and getting them to make content exclusively for them.
But you know, these smaller movies would end up on a thing like the IFC channel back in the 90s and 2000s. Now all this stuff is just getting put onto Netflix and kind of shit out.
And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's fine. Like, I have watched a number of the Netflix exclusive movies that are more in this vein, and they've been fine. Like, some of them are cute. Some of them I'm like, okay, that's a movie I watched. It was, 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was just there.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm worried about here is that there's such mediocrity out there as far as movies, and maybe it's because we're very, very selective about what we watch for the podcast. I mean, we're selective in general. Like, we're not going to just go out of our way to go and watch as many movies as humanly possible. I know there's a lot of people out there that do that, but we're not those people. We like to curate what we are exposing ourselves to.
Once in a blue moon, I put something on that has been in the queue for ages. I did one a few weeks ago, and I can't even remember what it was.
Yeah, but I don't want to have that happen. I want to actually have a movie impact me in whatever way that it is. But maybe that's why I take a movie like this and maybe put myself into it, or I extrapolate and I add things into it that aren't there.
You want to put value in it in some capacity so it was worth your time.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, that's the fun about this series is it is an experiment. We are seeing what else exists out there. Not everything is going to be, Bird Box or, Don't Look Up and The Power of the Dog. There's a lot of these movies that everybody talks about. For every one of those, probably 10 like this one, where it's just like, we stumbled upon this one.
Yeah.
I never heard of this until about a month ago.
All of the movies we have planned for this series, I had not heard of outside of looking them up, outside of just scrolling past them, except for this movie we just watched. I scrolled past it, I watched the trailer, I showed it to Betsy, and I said, hey, let's do this Netflix series because I want to watch this fucking movie.
But you didn't know about it
No, not
before
at all.
then.
No.
It was a mistake. It was a happy accident.
Yeah, but I'm glad we watched it.
All right, well, I think that's going to do it for this one. Have you watched this movie? Have you spent time surfing through Netflix and seen it in passing and never bothered to see what it was? Maybe you've now since watched it after listening to our episode. Were you playing the home game? Play the home game. If you have, email us neverseenitpod@gmail.com. We have an email about another high school movie we watched a few weeks ago from Stephanie about Varsity Blues.
A very different kind of movie.
And one that more people have probably heard of. She says, I have only seen this once, probably because it is pretty subpar. This movie is all over the place. There are some good moments, but also some truly bad moments. If they rewrote this movie now, Billy Bob would have been a bigger and better part. Also, the teacher would have been more of a commentary on low teacher wages and sex positivity.
I don't know about that.
Well, literally, this teacher has to take a second job because teachers don't get paid very much. But the way she is in this movie, she's all, have you turned in your papers? You're such naughty boys. It's like so weird and over the top.
Yeah, they would have gotten rid of the weird part at the very least, but they do not address the fact that she's doing it for the money. I just think she likes to do it.
The way it is in Varsity Blues, yes.
Yeah.
But if it were made today, they could maybe take a different approach to it.
Agreed.
She continues, John Voight is a great villain. Love seeing him get fired. There are some really good parts to this movie, but it just isn't consistent. So she sent us this email a few weeks ago when we first watched that movie, but it is actually quite relevant to what we are doing with this series because she also was watching some Netflix exclusive movies. So she continues, we watched Old Dads on Netflix the other day. Not bad. There are some really funny parts, but not amazing overall. I also watched The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society.
That's a mouthful.
It is, and I've watched that movie. It is cute, but again, it's kind of one of those, you have to dig for it. It's certainly not one of the more mainstream choices.
It's not one they're going to surface to you, you think?
Unless you watch a lot of romances, I don't think they will. But it is a very long title. She continues, we went to Guernsey on our cruise last summer, and the history of that island was fascinating. The movie really humanizes the Nazi occupation and is a really beautiful love story to boot. I also watched Wrapped Up in Christmas, which was fun Christmas fluff. And my daughter is on a big Hulk kick now, so we watched both the Ed Norton and Eric Bana versions. They were both better than my very low expectations. Love you guys, from Superfan Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. That is a strange thing for your daughter to be into. I wouldn't think that the Hulk would be very appealing to a little girl.
I mean, he's easy to understand because he's a big tough guy and he smashes stuff. And there's a certain appeal when you're still learning to regulate your emotions.
and there's not really a lot of nuance there with that character.
Not in those two interpretations.
Yeah, with the Mark Ruffalo thing, there's a lot more extra in there.
What they constantly say is the Hulk is best in small doses. The reason those two Hulk movies have really mixed reviews is because it's hard to sit through 2 hours of the Hulk. It worked on TV because it was 30-minute episodes. That's why that was successful there, and they haven't been able to really do it in full force in this modern time as a movie.
And in that Ang Lee version, they have all of the extra visual stuff added in where he's treating all of these different scenes like a comic book frame. And because it is so novel, you're paying attention to that portion of it and ignoring the fact that, geez, he's really in Hulk mode quite a long time, isn't he?
I think I've only honestly seen that version once.
Same.
And it was years and years and years ago, and I don't really remember it.
Yeah, I remember Jennifer Connelly, and that's about it.
Everything you're describing to me is a mystery to me, because I don't remember it. But to take it back to Stephanie's email about the Guernsey potato peel, the society, whatever that thing is called, it's cute. I think that might be the first thing I saw Glenn Powell in. I'm pretty sure he's in that movie.
Also very hot right now.
Yeah, Lily James is in it. It's sweet.
I like Lily James.
You might like this one. I don't know if it's something we would do for the podcast because it's like history. There's Nazis occupying this island.
I like history.
But it's also a romance. There's also literary elements to it. So I've only seen it the once, but I did like it. So if we're talking about more of these Netflix exclusive movies, that's one that is worth seeing. If you're into romance movies, it's cute. But once again, thank you, Stephanie, for your email. We appreciate you listening to the show and for always sending us your thoughts on these movies that we're covering. But we would love to hear from more of you who are also out there listening and are just too shy, like Ellie Chu, to send us an email and sign your real name. That's okay. You can put an alias on it. Email us, neverseenitpod@gmail.com.
Or you can just make up an email address, make it up on Gmail.
Exclusively to email us.
Exclusively to just email us.
We would love that. So do that. You can also follow us on all of the social media pages. We're always posting stuff on there. If you'd rather reach out to us on those platforms, send us a message in there. We pay attention. We'll respond to you. We would also love if you go to your podcast app of choice, write us a review, rate us 5 stars. Those things really help the show. But new in 2024, most of all, we would love for you to join our Patreon.
Patreon.com/neverseenitpod.
We just started this. We've got 4 brand new shows that you can follow along every Wednesday, plus some extra content if there's more than 4 Wednesdays. We only have 4 shows, but sometimes there's more than that in a month.
Like there is in the month of January.
So if you sign up now, you'll find out at the end of January what that special content is.
You're just going to have to sign up and find out. Patreon.com/neverseenitpod. We're just going to keep on saying it, guys. We're not going to stop.
So you should all do that. We've got lots and lots of fun stuff planned going into the new year.
2 episodes are already out. The next one is going to be Box Set.
And on Box Set, we are starting the Dark Knight trilogy. So this is a great time for you to tune in and hear us cover those 3 movies. But we will be back for our regular show, another episode of Never Seen It on Sunday, where we'll be covering a movie from 2018 starring Paul Giamatti and Kathryn Hahn, another one that we found on Netflix that we didn't really know about called Private Life. So we're looking forward to that because we love any reason to talk about Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, he is definitely starting to show up on the show a lot more.
We've made a conscious choice because we needed it in our lives, and now is the time.
Well, we haven't really been doing a whole lot of his stuff up until now, so we're making up for lost time.
And I'm here for it. But until then, this has been Never Seen It. My name is Betsy.
My name's Trent.
And we will see you next week.
See ya.